It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
Hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. So out the door this morning, it's cold, and we're giving you the first alert for a freeze coming tonight. We can take a quick look at some of those temperatures across the area this morning. You can see all of the various towns and communities across the area in the 30s and 40s already Monday morning. And the thing is, this morning it's not just chilly, but it's also breezy. So as you step out the door, you'll want to layer up. You know, have a coat, but also wear some layers so that the wind doesn't really bite right through you. We're talking about the wind chill because that's going to be a factor today. So you see those temperatures on the coast, looking at those 40s across the area. But if we kind of plot the winds, you can notice that there is also a breeze to contend with. Most of that wind is going to be right down along the coast. So you see those numbers around 10 to 15 miles per hour. So that's why the wind chill numbers are colder. So even though the temperature is around 40, the wind chills are in the 30s and lower 30s. So it almost feels like it's freezing in many areas this morning. Now we're tracking the Arctic outbreak. Straight from Santa's front porch, cold air has rushed down to the Gulf Coast. And it's going to stay with us in a little cold snap for the first couple of days this week. You see, if this were like January, this would be a much longer duration cold snap. But because it's still just November, still technically not winter on the calendar, still fall, this cold snap is only going to last a couple of days. So today being the first day of that, look at these temperatures. Nothing like you would expect in November. We're only going to have highs into the 50s. Let me remind you of what's normal for November. We're supposed to have a high temperature in the 70s this time of year. When is it normal to see 50s in South Mississippi? Technically never, but the closest you could get could be January. That's our lowest normal high temperature of the year. Comes the closest to the 50s during that month. So yeah, if you step out the door today, you might be wondering, is it January instead of November? And that's just temperature wise. Of course, wind chill wise, whole different story. And when we talk wind chill, we're talking about the wind, right? It's a breezy day, but it's also dry. We haven't seen a whole lot of rain recently. Perfect ingredients for a wildfire recipe. Wildfires may start more readily today, and those that do start could spread more rapidly on a day like today. So even though a bonfire would go perfectly to keep you warm with this type of weather, you are highly discouraged from doing any outdoor or open burning on a day like today, considering those dangerous potential wildfire conditions. So there's a look at the planner hour by hour today, and you'll notice that the temperatures do not go above 60. So we told you highs only 50s. And because of that breeze, it is going to feel even chillier. So you see that wind out of the northwest, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Some of the gusts could be even higher. So this is your wind chill forecast. And what this is, it's got two numbers. The numbers at the top are the temperature number. The number at the bottom is the wind chill number. So for example, at 9 o'clock this morning, temperature 45, but wind chill only 40. At noon today, temperature 52, but wind chill only 47. Ooh, it's still going to feel chilly at noon today. At 3 p.m., temperature 54, but wind chill only 49. I mean, really, the wind chill numbers don't even get into the 50s today. That's what I was trying to give you an advance warning of last week. It's been a while since we've had a daytime wind chill not even hit the 50s. So this will be an exceptionally chilly feeling day. One that you want to make sure if you're going to be spending multiple hours outside, that you're prepared, dressed appropriately for it. There's plenty of people who walk out their front door, open their car door, and then walk right into the office door. You spend fewer than 10 minutes outside. You might be able to do today in short sleeves, not a big deal. But if you are spending more than 60 minutes outside, if you're spending 2 hours, 3 hours, you got soccer practice in the evening, you are earning a paycheck outside with a job like delivering mail, delivering packages to front doors, you're getting, like I said, an outdoor workout in, you're spending multiple hours outside, without running into a climate controlled environment, those are the people that are going to find a big problem if they are not dressed appropriately today. That's not everyone, but it is that specific group of people that I'm really referring to when I say that you really should make sure that you're dressed appropriately for these daytime wind chills that won't really rise above the 50s. Now, look how quickly things change this evening. I mean, my goodness, once the sun goes down, the temperatures start to plummet. 6 p.m., 46 degrees, already feeling like the 30s at 6 p.m. today. 7 p.m., 43, already feeling like the middle 30s. This wind chill stuff, there's a science to it. It's not just made up. It's not just, some would say, fear mongering or anything like that. This is the science behind it, the weather why of wind chill. Our bodies, we have the body heat, right? What is the temperature? 98.6 degrees, regular body temperature. So our bodies are warm. We know this. The body heat escapes. It radiates outward. And when it's radiating outward, your body heat, it kind of puts a little protective heat bubble around you, your own personal little heat bubble from your own body heat that stays very close to your body if there is no wind. So that's why with no wind, 40 degrees would feel like 40 degrees. But once we start to introduce wind, your little protective personal heat bubble is burst. It's blown away from you. And so 40 degrees no longer feels like 40 because you no longer have that personal layer of body heat right next to your body. It's blown away. So you get this wind chill factor is what that's referred to, and you get 40 degrees to actually feel like 32 or 33 degrees. So that's just an example there with some winds of how that could affect the apparent temperature of the air. And that's going to be a factor today. It is going to be a factor for parts of tonight, but the good news is that overnight tonight, the winds are expected to finally relax. And so we shouldn't have much of a wind chill to talk about tomorrow morning, as that area of high pressure, let me remind you on the map here, big area of high pressure off to our west. Right now, we're in between the high and the low, so that's why it's breezy. But that high off to our west in Texas, that's going to slide on top of us tonight. And that's what's going to get the winds to calm down. That's what's going to get the winds to relax. But when you have calm conditions, clear skies, dry air during the cold season, those are also the perfect ingredients for temperatures to fall rapidly. That's how we're going to get the temperatures to come down into the freezer tonight, and why you will want to protect people, pets, and plants wherever you live in South Mississippi, and why some inland areas may want to consider protecting pipes too, because it could be a close call with pipe freezing conditions. Look at the temperatures and wind chills tonight. So when does the freeze start? Well, these numbers are for the coast, and by the way, it's already going to be feeling like it's freezing by 9 p.m. So wind chill, by the way, some people wonder about this. Wind chill, does it affect pipes? No. Wind chill only affects things that can feel. Wind chill only affects things with skin. People, pets. Not plants, not pipes. So that's why that 32 that starts at 9 p.m., not really a factor for pipes, not really a factor for plants. But you look up here at the temperature number, and that is how we get that freeze to start around sometime between midnight tonight and 3 in the morning. That's when we're going to start the freeze. And that duration of freezing temperatures is going to last around 6 hours or so until we get out of the freezer sometime between 6 in the morning and 7 in the morning and 9 in the morning on Tuesday. Notice those wind chill numbers could fall into the middle 20s though, so that's dangerous for people that are exposed to that, dangerous for pets that are exposed to that overnight tonight. Now, even though on the coast we're forecasting a low of about 31, there are some places inland that will be colder. And I'm telling you, this freeze watch that we have right now, that's probably going to get upgraded to a freeze warning. We were mentioning during GMM the difference between the two so that you understand when your phone starts going off and making noise today when you get that upgrade in South Mississippi, you'll understand the difference. We've been under a freeze watch because it's the National Weather Service telling us, hey, get ready to possibly put protections into place for Monday night. And then once we get to later today, they are likely going to upgrade that watch to a warning. And when that warning hits your phones and makes the alert noise and makes your notifications go off, that warning is there to say, all right, the time to get ready is over. Now it's time to take action and make sure that those protections are in place before the freeze on Monday night. So exactly who has to protect what, it will depend on where you are, but we're all protecting people, pets, and plants. But those inland areas, that's where I do think that you may want to, because it's going to be close enough, protect pipes. Now, being super technical about it, I don't think we're going to have the duration, the numbers of duration there for a pipe bursting freeze for inland areas. When we take a look at the forecast numbers, coast versus inland, hour by hour, look at for a duration for a pipe freeze, you probably need more than 3 to 6 hours of temperatures in the middle 20s. That's just what I've learned working in South Mississippi for around a decade. We usually don't see widespread pipe bursting issues until the temperatures hit the middle 20s and they stay there for more than 3 or 6 hours. That's not going, I don't think that's going to happen anywhere here, but I do think it's going to come close for our inland areas. Notice that we do get down to 27, which is middle 20s, but notice how short of a duration that is. It's only going to be around 1 to 3 hours, around 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And I think for pipes to really have more widespread issues, you'd probably have to have it in the middle 20s from basically midnight all the way to 7 or 8 in the morning. And we're not forecasting it to get that cold and stay that cold for that long. So that's why I do think maybe you might be able to sneak away with not wrapping the pipes anywhere. But look, sometimes forecasts can be wrong. And if this forecast is wrong by just a few degrees, by just a few hours, then your pipes are in danger. So I do think it's too close to call, and I do recommend wrapping pipes inland just in case the cold is longer than expected. By the way, are we going to set a record with this? The answer is I don't think so, at least where they keep the records at the Gulfport Airport. And they've been keeping records in the Gulfport Biloxi area since the late 1890s. So we have a long amount of years to compare. And so that means it's harder to hit a new record when you have so many years to beat. The year 1894, there was 28 degrees on November 11th. So I don't think with a forecast of 31 that we are going to break that. That being said, I looked at the rest of the records for November 11th. 31 is actually not that far from first place. It's second place, and we had a 31 degree in 2011. So if we get 31 degrees tomorrow, it would actually be the second coldest November 11th ever recorded since the 1800s, since records began to be kept in Gulfport, Biloxi. So there's a look at the town by town, and we'll make this a little bigger on your screen so you can see some of the town names. Again, in these areas that are generally north of Interstate 10, that's where I do think it could be too close to call. You might want to wrap your pipes just in case. But we are forecasting the temperature to hit the middle 20s, even though the duration might not be long enough to cause widespread pipe issues. Along the beaches, we're not expecting a pipe freeze, so you protect people, pets, and plants there, but maybe not pipes. Only exception will be this extent near the Pascagoula River. Sometimes south of I-10, you can get colder temperatures right there. And so that'll be something to watch for. Anyway, when we talk about protecting the cold weather peas, that's what we're talking about. When we say protect pipes, cover exposed pipes outside and faucets. And you may also want to let a pencil-thin stream of water drip during the overnight hours. If you have a pool, run a pool pump. For pets and livestock, bring the pets in, shelter the livestock, make sure that if they're sheltered outside, they have heat, they have food, and you may need to replenish the water in case it freezes overnight so that they can stay hydrated. Plants, bring in the small ones, or if they're too big to bring in, then cover the ones that stay outside. And of course, people check in on the elderly, the kids, and those outside. Tomorrow, we start with a cold start, but because there's not as much wind, there's not as much separation between the temperature and the wind chill. Tomorrow at 7 in the morning, 33 might only feel like 33, instead of this morning when there's much more of a separation. And then tomorrow afternoon, we finally get those wind chills to get back into the 50s. There's really not much of a wind chill by 3 p.m. tomorrow, 57, only feeling like 56, so that's actually going to be the tail end of this cold snap. We get to Wednesday, the cold snap's done, back to the 70s for the remainder of the week. And we'll actually see over the weekend, staying in the mild side, temperature 70s, maybe a little rain chance, especially as we head towards Sunday, but we'll talk more details about that once we get out of this cold snap later this week. So hopefully now you're better prepared for the cold to come as we get through this little November mini cold snap, mini Arctic outbreak. We'll be back to fall stuff later this week, but for now, it's winter to start the week. Well, that'll do it for today's edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.